Hello, fight fans. Seattle Mike Fights with Friends and UFC 311 is this Saturday. Makhachev versus Tsarukyan. Dvalishvili versus Nurmagomedov. It's an incredible card. 4 prelim fights on ESPN News and ESPN Plus. Of course, a 5-card main event on pay-per-view. We're going to break down those 9 fights. There are 4 UFC early prelim fights, but I just feel like this is really the meat and potatoes of the card, and it starts at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Let's jump into the first fight here. We got a rising star at lightweight in Grant Dawson, 22-2, taking on a mainstay, Diego Ferreira. This guy's been in the UFC for quite some time. Dawson won 4 of his last 5, got that second loss against Bobby Green. He still looked good in that fight. Dawson's very explosive. He's younger. Diego Ferreira at one time, he looked like he might be the future of this division, or at least definitely a top 5 guy. Was on a very good 6-fight win streak. He's lost 3 of his last 5, albeit to very good fighters. Beneil Dariush, Gregor Gillespie, and of course Matus Gomrot got the victory over Michael Johnson, who I know is a bit erratic and all over the place, but as we've seen from his last fight, he's not done yet. Also had a good victory against Burbecki. I got to go with the younger, more explosive fighter in this fight. I like minus 250 on Grant Dawson, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up finishing it late. Otherwise, look for a dominant, unanimous decision. I just don't think Ferreira is going to have the firepower to compete with the young cat. Next fight up, we got Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elekana. Elekana's making his UFC debut. Elekana, it's hard to know a lot about him. It's hard to know what he's going to do once he gets in there, how he's going to respond. Little surprised this one's not on the early prelims. But like I said, Billy making his UFC debut, not really fought in any major organizations, no PFL, no LFA even. Bogdan's coming off of a knockout win over Ryan Spann. I'm expecting the same here. I like Bogdan. I don't really bet method of victory, but if I had to guess, I'd say Bogdan by knockout. But a minus 305, I like Bogdan, and I'm not going to say Bogdan and Dawson are a bad parlay. I don't know what you'd end up with those. You probably end up with somewhere around minus 20, minus 130. And that might not be a bad bet there. I think both those guys are going to get this done. Next, we go to heavyweight. Halton Almeida. This guy might be the 3rd best fighter in the heavyweight division. Taking on Serghei Spivac. Of course, Serghei was on a surge until recently, hitting that barrier in Cyril Gahn that derailed him, but he has won 4 out of 5. Augusto Sakai, Derek Lewis stopped a streaking Marcin Tybura in his last fight. Looked pretty impressive in doing it. But Halton Almeida, this guy I think is a future heavyweight champion. I think he will have the belt. Coming off a very impressive victory over Alexander Romanov. Really in his last 5, that one loss to Curtis Blades, he was winning that fight and he just got caught. It happens. It could happen here against Spivac, but Spivac is a much different fighter. I don't expect Spivac to try to take this to the ground much. I think Almeida is a much deeper fighter. He's just got more skills, and for that reason, I see Almeida dominating this fight. Spivac's hard to get out of there, so I'm going to say Almeida by unanimous decision. But if I'm betting, it's Almeida all day long. We're going to head into the last fight on the prelims, and these odds are ridiculous, guys. Raoni Barcelos, he has lost 3 of his last 5. I mean, tough guys that he's lost to, right? Umar Nurmagomedov, Victor Henry, Kyler Phillips. I mean, not slouches, but Payton Talbott, this guy is the future. He is my dark horse in the bantamweight division. I think this kid is really, really good. I'm not ready to call him future champion yet. He's just got 9 fights in MMA, but he is so smart. His fight IQ is already so high. He's explosive. He's just really fun to watch. And I think Payton Talbott gets this done. He'll take whatever Barcelos gives him. I think if Barcelos is open on the feet, Talbott will knock him out. If he makes mistakes and goes to the ground, he'll get submitted. Payton Talbott just way too good for Raoni Barcelos, and that's why you're seeing this ridiculous lopsided bet. By the way, I would stay away from anything this big. Anything can happen in MMA, and I'm not going to put $1,100 down on anybody to win 100. I wouldn't even throw him in a parlay, to be honest. Next fight up, Kevin Holland, Reinier De Ridder. Kevin Holland's been one of the most unpredictable fighters in the UFC since he's came here. Lost 3 of his last 5. He lost that fight to Michael Venom Page in Page's debut in the UFC. Got a good win over Michael Almeida. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that name. Michael Chiesa, 4 fights back, but it just does not seem like it's the same Kevin Holland that we watched come into the UFC that, fought 6 times in a year, 5-6 times, whatever it was, lost to Roman Dolidze his last time out. I don't think that's a fight he probably should have lost. Reinier De Ridder. This guy was very good in ONE FC. And I thought he was one of the best light heavyweights in the world. When he was light heavyweight champion over there, he was middleweight and light heavyweight champion. So 2-weight champion. His only 2 losses were to Anatoly Malikin, who's very good. But let's be honest, over in ONE FC, their strengths, their best guys are at these lighter weights. Middleweight, light heavyweight, they're just not as deep as the UFC. I think we've seen a little bit of that in his debut against Gerald Meerschaert. He did take Meerschaert out in the 3rd, but until he submitted Meerschaert, that fight was anybody's fight. And I don't think too many people expected that. I think they thought Reinier was going to come in there and kind of walk over Gerald, and the UFC kind of paved the way for him. Kind of, threw a guy out there that he should have taken out pretty easily. I think he struggled with him too much. I don't like to bet on Kevin Holland, but if I was going to bet on this fight, I would bet on Kevin Holland. It's just too unpredictable. -112. If you like Kevin, it's certainly not the worst bet on this card. But like I said, Kevin just totally unpredictable. Next fight up, Renato Money Moicano Carneiro and Beneil Dariush. Wow, this is a fire fight. Moicano coming into this a slight favorite at -175. Dariush on the plus money, +145. Yeah, Dariush has lost back-to-back, but he's lost against maybe 2 of the 3 best guys in that division. Probably 2 of the best 3. Defeated Matus Gamrot, who's definitely one of the best fighters in the division. Beat up an old Tony Ferguson. I'm not going to give him too much credit for that, but had an impressive win over Diego Ferreira right before that. But Renato Moicano, 4-fight win streak, and very impressive. Very impressive. Brad Riddle, but then Drew Dober. Dober's a tough out. Jalen Turner, just a guy that's a lot to deal with the height and the length and everything. And Moicano dealt with that very well. And then I don't know how many people expected him to beat BSD, but he defeated Benoit Saint Denis in his last fight. I think Renato Moicano, he's probably a couple fights away from a title shot, and I think this victory over Beneil Dariush is going to get him that much closer. I got to take Moicano in this one. I just think he's younger. I think he's just a better fighter. Next fight up, Jiri Prochazka, Jamahal Hill. Man, was I excited when I heard about this fight. I don't know if Wyatt is watching right now, but Wyatt, I know, was picking Jamahal Hill in this, and I really thought when the odds came out, I thought Prochazka was going to be some kind of giant favorite. When the odds opened, it was basically even. And look at this. Jiri's even an underdog now. A plus 110 underdog for Jiri Prochazka. Let's start with Jiri. 6 fights in the UFC, but he had dominated in Rizin. So there's guys that have came over from Rizin. We recently seen the guy that lost to Alexander Pantoja. We've seen Manel Kopp come over. We've seen, some decent guys come over. But we've not seen anyone that's outgrown the promotion. Like, they didn't have anybody else for him to fight. They were bringing guys over, and Jiri was just beating the snot out of everybody. And that's why he had to come to the UFC. Not often a guy outgrows a good promotion like Rizin, but Jiri did. Just a spectacular fighter. He's all over the place, though. He's a wild man. He's going to miss. He's going to give you opportunities. He's going to give you chances to hit him, and he's going to throw berserker tough shots. He's a finisher. He's finished almost every fight he's won. Lost both fights to Alex, though, and he got beat up bad in that last one against Alex Pereira. Jamahal Hill, of course, his last fight lost to Alex Pereira as well. 4-fight win streak before that, and impressive as well. Glover Teixeira, Thiago Santos, that Johnny Walker knockout. It wasn't the opponent, but it was what he did to Johnny Walker when Walker gets hit and just tumbles like a tower. I mean, it was incredible. This is a massive, massive fight. We would be extremely happy with this being the co-main event, I think, or a main event on a big fight night. I'm not talking about like an Apex fight night, but I'm talking about like a UFC Chicago, UFC Seattle type thing. I really like this fight at the 3 spot. I think Prochazka can get it done, though. I think he hits harder. I don't know that Jamahal Hill ever fully recovered from his injury going into the Alex fight, and I don't know that he's ever going to be the same. That LCL injury, it's a very tough injury, and a lot of guys don't come back 100%. For those reasons, I got Jiri Prochazka, but a very tough fight to call. Now let's go to the co-main event, Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov, where we have a champion that is a large underdog here. A large underdog, plus 235. That shows you the power of the name Nurmagomedov, does it not? Let's look at his last 5. Yeah, he defeated Ronnie Barcelos, whatever, Brian Kelleher, like these other guys. They're almost kind of throwaway fights. I don't mean to diss on these guys, but they're not stepping stones to a title shot. Corey Sandhagen, that's a guy that's a stepping stone to a title. That's a guy that was a contender, has been a contender several times, and then just he's on the cusp of it, and he loses to one of these top guys. Of course, he lost to Umar Nurmagomedov, but Corey Sandhagen, I think, showed us something. In that fight, he showed that Nurmagomedov's takedowns could be stopped, and Sandhagen's not known for being the best grappler on earth. Merab Dvalishvili, this guy has insane cardio. I don't expect either one of these guys to get tired, but I don't know that even a Nurmagomedov or any Nurmagomedov can put on the pace that this guy puts on. And those last 5, that's amazing. Marlon Moraes, Jose Aldo, Petr Yan, Henry Cejudo, Sean O'Malley, and look especially to Yan and Cejudo. He dealt with their wrestling. Can he deal with Nurmagomedov? I think so. I think so. And for those reasons, I am taking one underdog on this card, and he's it. Merab Dvalishvili at plus 235. That is my pick, and that is my underdog pick for UFC 311. Let's go to the main event. Championship on the line. Islam Makhachev, Arman Tsarukyan. Man, Arman Tsarukyan with an impressive win over Charles Oliveira to get here. That was a back and forth war. He had to go through adversity. He had to go through everything to get to this spot to defeat Charles Oliveira. Add to that the pressure of UFC 300. I mean, oh my goodness. His only loss in the last 5 was to Matus Kamrat, one of the top guys out there. Let's look at Islam's last 5. Of course, Bobby Green, Charles Oliveira, Volkanovski twice, dominated Dustin Poirier. Nobody dominates Dustin Poirier. I just don't see Tsarukyan taking the throne from Islam Makhachev. I don't see anybody in the division challenging Islam for the belt this year. I think they're going to have to wait till he gets old, to be honest. Arman, he's top 3. And if he stays at lightweight, he's probably going to be top 3 until Makhachev retires. I don't know if he can make welterweight or featherweight, but if he really wants to be champion, I'm going to be honest, I think he probably needs to look to a different weight division. I got Islam retaining his championship. All right, guys, we will be live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for UFC 311. Don't forget to check out our breakdowns. We're doing breakdowns for every weight division in the UFC, who will be champion at the end of 2025. And the lightweight breakdown is next right after this video. Featherweight's already done. Featherweight went down yesterday. Bantamweight, flyweight, if you haven't watched them, there'll be links to that at the end of this video. As always, I love you, I respect you, and I'll see your fine asses at UFC 311.